Hector. All right, let's do this. Hector, how you doing, fam?
I'm doing well, thank you. How you all doing today?
Oh, I can't complain. Just breaking my brain with WoW lore, as I usually do. Very, very much fun.
That's a good feeling.
Oh yeah. What is your question, Hector?
All right, so like last time, I've got a couple of smaller ones. I think is better fitting for my style here.
Okay.
Let's start off with a fun one, like we did last time.
Okay.
And also, let me just say, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. Thanks for doing this show. I think this is great.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I love doing this. This weekly Q&A stuff just become the highlight of my week almost, because it's one thing to come up with my own theories, right? And basically be limited in what you can think of yourself, right? It's a whole different thing when you're sitting here and you have a viewer ask you a question of something that maybe you haven't thought about in years, because that happens quite often where you guys will ask me questions about stuff all the way back in like Legion or Warlock of Draenor or something that happened, and it's like, whoa, okay, now I really need to think again, because I can't remember the last time I thought of this. And obviously when you're making your own videos, it's gonna take a while for you to get all that far back to stuff. So yeah, this is super fun.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go.
All right.
Last time I started with the question, where in the World of Warcraft is Accolonn? Now, when I wrote that question, I was mostly thinking like, where does he hang out and make his plans? Does he have a little corner in the Cleft of Shadows? Does he do it at the Warlock Order Hall? But you gave me something far more beautiful. You said at the side of Gul'dan.
Yep.
And with more clarity, all right, well, Gul'dan's not here right now, so working on bringing Gul'dan back.
Yeah, obviously, I've got his soul. I'm working on potions and things, Philosopher's Stone.
So this is the sequel question.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you want to restore Gul'dan?
Gul'dan. Okay, so Gul'dan is actually my favorite villain in the whole World of Warcraft franchise, for one simple reason: he has no depth. He is evil for the sake of evil. He literally just wants to become powerful and destroy everything. And when you know a little bit about his early life, he was considered to be an outcast. He was not accepted by his own clan. The elements would never speak to him, because remember, orcs very deeply entrenched within shamanistic culture. But the elements would just never reach out to him. Like, he couldn't make that connection. And that sort of being neglected, being thrown away, being pushed out of society, that drove him to discover a new form of power. One so incredible that it allowed a mere mortal, which, never forget, Gul'dan is a mere mortal, to be the driving factor in many of the stories that we have in World of Warcraft today. And the thing I love about him most is you can absolutely trust every word Gul'dan ever says to you. For one reason and one reason only: Gul'dan is evil purely for evil's sake. He doesn't want to do good. He doesn't have any ulterior motives. He's evil for evil's sake. End of discussion. So when Gul'dan tells you, I want you to drink this blood, it's not because of anything other than, I want power. And this will give you power, but it will also give me control over you, which will then give me power. So while his motives may not always be good for you, it will always be good for him. And as long as you know that, there's no surprises, right? The orcs made the mistake of trusting Gul'dan coming through the portal, thinking that he would be there. But first chance he got, he was off, right? Looking for power on Azeroth. He couldn't give two fucks about the orcs' invasion of Azeroth, because all he wants is more power. That's it. He joined Sargeras, not because he believes in Sargeras' fight, not because in his mind Sargeras is the true master of anything. No, Sargeras represents power. It's one of the other reasons why Azshara is in my top 5 of favorite villains, because Azshara is exactly the same. She wants power, and it doesn't matter how she gets it, as long as it's there at the end.
Yeah. I think that these simple villains often play pretty well in the Warcraft franchise as well, or at least have traditionally.
I agree with
now,
you.
Could there also be a strange element of altruism to the restoration of a creature like Gul'dan, so far as Fel has just been diminished in cosmic power balance quite extraordinarily from the defeat of the Legion? And without that fire to wash things clean, other forces might grow a little bit out of control.
Okay, from Accolonn's perspective, if I'm speaking about my character, he does nothing for altruism's sake. As a character, I don't give a fuck about anyone else in the game. I hate the fact that we have things like, portal and gates and stuff that we can put down. It's like my job isn't to help my party at all. It's for me. I am here for my power. I'm not here for anyone else. I don't want to save you. The Healthstones, the only reason, like the coolest thing they did with the Healthstones was back when you would actually get a bit of health back whenever someone used the Healthstone. That was cool, because now I'm giving you Healthstones for me. Right? Not for you. I'm doing it for me. Sadly, on the level that I do content these days, no one uses a fucking Healthstone, so it doesn't matter. I don't get health back. But back when I still did proper, Mythic Plus runs and stuff, those were actually really cool. But no, my character wouldn't do anything for altruism's sake. The reason I'm at Gul'dan's side is I want, effectively, to take his power. That's the only reason I'm there, is to eventually take his power and then become the most powerful force in the universe, so to speak. And again, it boils down to this. You said something that I do want to sort of just highlight on before we move on to a different question or whatever. But I think simplistic villains in World of Warcraft work particularly well, because World of Warcraft does have this incredible focus on gameplay first. We spoke about this yesterday when we were watching Preach's interview with Ian. Because of its gameplay first mentality, intricate or highly complex villains, like for example a Zuval, oftentimes falls flat, right? It becomes one-dimensional, and there's nothing worse than a one-dimensional villain that was meant to be multi-dimensional, right? Because the villain isn't doing this just for their own power, but at the end of the day, it kind of seems like they're just doing this for their own power, because you can't really get to the nuances and the intricacies of who this character is. Whereas Gul'dan, just straightforward evil, right? Doesn't give two fucks about anyone else. It's just him, and he's the only one that matters. It works because you don't need a massive build-up to Gul'dan's story. As long as you can drive home, this guy only cares about power, everyone goes, oh, of course, this is easy. So I feel like it works in World of Warcraft. I'm not saying that all villains should be one-dimensional in World of Warcraft, because there's also now, for example, Razageth and Eridikron and the other Primalists. They do seem to have multifaceted goals and depth to their characters that is just handled really well. So it's not like World of Warcraft can't do very complex villains. It's just that overly complex villains, it takes so much more time to really set them up and really build them up and really get them to that place of proper villainy that people would buy into. This is one of the reasons why Arthas worked so well, because I would argue Arthas is probably one of the most complex villains we've ever had in World of Warcraft, because Arthas is actually not a villain. Arthas is
right, and he got the spotlight time.
Yeah, but he's an anti-hero, if anything, right? And when you go into his story, it's incredibly tragic and incredibly sad. But obviously most players don't know that because most players didn't play through Wrath of the Lich King, so how would they even know? But I do sort of think at the end of it, it's always good to have a mix of villains. So, for example, Gul'dan is almost always featured where Sargeras isn't far behind. And Gul'dan is the one-dimensional, simplistic, easy-to-understand villain. Sargeras is the more complex, very difficult to get to villain. And through Gul'dan, we get to see a little bit more of the complexities and intricacies of Sargeras every once in a while. And I feel like if this wasn't your question, but I will say it anyways, that's probably one of the things that Zuvul missed, is that Zuvul didn't have this incredibly one-dimensional champion to forego him, right? That we could sort of get used to, learn about, and then finally go, oh, okay, cool. You know, this is who he is. Zuvul was his own thing, and the champion that forgo, or that went before Zuvul was Sylvanas, another highly complicated and intricate character. And then the one that came before Sylvanas was Arthas, another complicated and intricate character. So it's sort of like you have no simplistic-minded imp, right, that just sort of tells the player what they need to know about this great evil, with all of its complexities and all of its intricacies and all of its levels and layers. So yeah, that's my argument for why I like Gul'dan.
Fantastic. I love it. How beautifully Warlock of you.
Of course. That's why I bought into a Warlock, and I think I've told the story before. I don't know if you guys remember. Like, when did you start playing League of World of Warcraft?
Wrath of the Lich King.
Wrath of the Lich King. Even back then, right? Before you made a character, there was a box with like dialogue in it, or text in it, not dialogue. But it would tell you a little bit about your class and your race. So when you choose your race, it would tell you a little bit about, so humans, for example, where they come from, and orcs, where they come from, and so on and so forth. And then if you clicked on your class, it would replace that with what your class is all about. And in that box, it spoke about how Warlocks master the use of curses, draining the lifeblood from their enemies to heal themselves, and using their own lifeblood to just rain destruction upon their foes. And that line, that sort of incredibly selfish, your life is my life because my life fuels my magic kind of thing, was just, yeah, let's go. This is my class. This is the one that I want to play. My first character was a Warlock, and it's just been my first character. I just love Warlocks. For all intents and purposes. Anyway, I know you have more questions, so I'm just going to end this recording and then start another recording, because I know your next question is probably going to be a lot more intricate.